Hello, Border Collie Geeks, and welcome to a new episode. Um, so today is just me, and today is an episode that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Um, I even thought about inviting someone to join me for this episode, but then I realized that this is something actually that is going to be useful not just for you listeners, but for my future students, because every time we need to talk about how to make possible for you to take a dog to the vet, then I can give this podcast episode and they can go home and listen to it, or they can even listen to it before coming to see me. This is an important episode that is very close to my heart because I have dogs that don't like to go to the vet and I have to make it work for them. My beautiful, very loved Moss, which lives behind me now, is sleeping, thankfully, because he was digging the floor a second ago. And that is a very annoying sound in the background. He doesn't like going to the vet. So I need to tell the vet exactly how we make Moss happy when he needs to go to the vet. And it's my job to do it because I know him better than anyone else. And I need to protect him. I need to make sure that he doesn't, at his age, but even when he was a bit younger, he doesn't have to suffer, he doesn't have to stress, he doesn't have to, be unhappy, because taking your dog to the vet is important. Don't put it off because your dog doesn't like to go. I get that so many times from my students that come to me and I was like, okay, so what did the vet said? Oh, no, we don't go to the vet because the dog doesn't like it. It doesn't work like this. You can't avoid taking your dog to the vets for your usual, yearly checkups and vaccinations. Because the day that you really need to take the dog to the vet because the dog really hurt themselves, you haven't put a plan in place for that to be not a completely stress-free experience, but at least not at the level of of a dog that never goes to the vet, and then suddenly they break a nail that bleeds, they break a leg, they cut themselves on barbed wire, they're ill for too many days, and you need to go to the vet. And then at that point you're like, what do I do? And your dog is like, what the hell? Why suddenly we're going to this place and everyone is there looking at me and doing that? So it's important that you have a good relationship with your vets, and it's important that you prepare your dog, even if it's a dog that doesn't like to be touched, and go to the vets. And I'm going to tell you how we're going to do that. So first thing that I want to discuss about vets is that, there's a lot of ideas about vets. Vets are there to take your money. Vets don't care about the dog health. Vets are exactly like you and me. They're people that spend money and time studying one of the most difficult discipline, which is medicine. And I think it's even harder to be a vet than it is to be a doctor. I think that, doctors, at least they can talk to you and you can tell them exactly what's hurting and why it's hurting, what happens when it's hurting, and what have you been eating before it was hurting, and what, that you can talk to a doctor. And it's much easier to diagnose a person than it is to diagnose a dog. Dogs don't talk, and dogs have teeth. So vets are people, and being people means that they're afraid to be bitten. And it's important that we put vets into a position of being safe. So to me, there's no question, every dog, even the most placid, has to be muzzle trained. Because when you go to the vets with a broken leg, when you go to the vets with a dog that has been in an accident, or it's bleeding because it's been attacked by a dog, I'm going to make it the worst case scenario, you need to be able to put a muzzle on a dog to keep the vet safe. So vets are people, and it doesn't mean, they don't have to be brave. They need to know how to handle an animal and try to diagnose, but it needs to be done in a safe way. So vets spend years training. I have all respect. I wanted to be a vet and I couldn't do the training, the studying. It was too long. I'm not a person that can sit down still for too long to study. It was never my goal in life. I'm a doer. So they have a hard time, by a lot of from a lot of clients and people thinking that they're there to get their money. But it's not an easy job. Nobody would want to do it, really, if it wasn't because they like animals and they love animals. I think that if you like medicine, you become a doctor. That's much easier. So I'm sure the vets that have good, the people that own clinics, some of them earn some good money because they work hard and they work a lot and they have a good practice with good machinery. They have a lot of people going to them because they're good. So that's why they earn money. If they're not good, then they don't have people going to them and they don't earn enough money to be, to have good income. So yes, it's there's nothing wrong with earning money if you do a good job. So don't go against them because they cost a bit more that we would want to spend. And it's not, nobody likes to spend money. But I think that one of the best money spent is towards the health of your dogs. My favorite money spent are towards the health and the happiness of my dogs. So at the end of the day, in the UK, we have insurances. Please take an insurance up so that you can cover part, if not all, the expenses towards the vets. And if not, save money, put it in an account and use them when needed. Saying that, I just wanted to wanted to say that I respect the vets and don't make it more difficult for them. And don't, make sure that you make sure that you you trust your vets and you find the vet you trust. If you don't trust your vet, change it. Find one that you trust. It's the same with doctors. If you don't like a doctor, change it. And it's the same for vets. Find one that you trust. Find one that, you can reach out and be listened. Because I think that's the other thing, it's I want to be listened by my vet. I want my vet to actually, look at me and talk to me and explain to me exactly what's going on and ask my opinion as well, because it's my dog at the end of the day. But I need to give back the same respect, because otherwise I'm not going to have respect if I don't give respect. So it has to go two ways. And we need to make sure that we can take our dogs to the vets whenever needed. Now, if you have a puppy, it's best to take them to the vets, even just to weight them as many times as you can, so that it's a good experience for them. So ask your vets, can I take my puppy in once every 2 to 3 weeks to weight? And it's a good thing because you know exactly what much they weight, you know exactly how much you have to feed them, you know exactly, how much they weight for their fleece treatment or for their tablets and everything. So it's important. So last week I took Moss to do his monthly Librela injection, and I took Puppy with me. Kite came along and he went on the scale, he had cuddles, he had a pee in the vet rooms. Oh, if you're watching this on video, I've got a fly flying in front of me. So make sure that you take your puppy to the vets for pleasant things. I'm sure that any receptionist, any nurse would like to see a puppy and give them a cuddle. Ask your vets, can I take my puppy in a couple of weeks and just wait them and have a treat from you, so that going to the vet is a positive experience. If you walk past your vet anyway because you're going somewhere, just, call in and say, hi, it's me. I want my puppy to be happy here. And I'm sure that everyone will be happy for you to take the time to acclimatize your puppy to the practice and be a long-term client that goes to them. If you have a rescue dog, then, I've never rescued a dog, but rely on the rescue to tell you how your dog is at the vets, so that you know in advance what to expect. But again, make sure that you take your time to understand your dog. Go in and talk to the vets. Look, I've rescued a dog. I don't know how it's going to be. And see what the vet suggests. They might come out to see them the first time instead of taking them in. When you don't know how the dog is going to be and is an adult dog with experiences and trauma probably, then you need to try to do it the best way you can. So talk to the vet and you know, don't assume that the dog is going to be good. Talk to the vet and say, I've just rescued this dog and the rescue told me this and that. I am not sure how it's going to react in a room full of other dogs waiting. So talk to the vet and see what they suggest. Now, if you have a dog, a border collie or a dog that he's struggling to go to the vet, and you know that already, they don't like to go in, they don't like to be touched, they don't like to be visited, then this is where we need a big plan. And this can relate also to rescue dogs. But even, you know, like my Moss used to be fine with the vets, used to be okay with jumping on his own on the table, being visited, being touched. It was amazing until he had an injury. And that injury meant that he was pulled and poked because they couldn't find out what the injury was. And of course, he was in pain. It was a back leg. And then we had to have shock waves on the leg because he had a calcification that needed treatments. And that meant going to the vets every 4 weeks to be partially anesthetized. So he was half asleep and he had these shock waves which used to be quite painful. I'm not sure now because they are like they shake, you know, the bone or the calcification. And it was painful. And I mean, now, if it was the same type of treatment, I would not do it again. I would try to find a different way, an alternative way. But it might be that the technology has changed. We're talking about 11 years ago. And he started hating the vet because the vet meant that he was half asleep while he was having a treatment that was painful and he couldn't react to it because he was half asleep, but he was in pain. Horrible. If I think about it now, I feel so guilty for allowing it, but I didn't know any better. And that's why, you know, that's why I want to help, and I want to help you with this episode, is understanding exactly what your dog is going through. But at the same time, there are sometimes treatment you can't avoid doing, and you do it for the long life of your dog. So we can't always say, oh, I'm not doing that because the dog is going to be stressed, because sometimes it's needed. Was it needed in Moss? I don't know. Probably not. Probably didn't help really, you know, but that's why he started to become more reactive at the vets. So he then had, he's fine when he goes to the physio, he's fine. He used to go to the osteopath. He's fine when he's treated by a person that takes his time with him, but he's not fine when he's very quick. I'm going to touch you where you hurt and I'm going to poke as quick as possible. Because vets wants to do it quick and they don't have the time all the time in the world. And then, you know, the more injuries, then he got under the injury, wasn't unrelated to that. He had bladder problems, he had all sorts, and they all built up to the point that going to the vet for him is really scary. So he doesn't react anymore to the vets. He used to, you know, do like the growling and the fake biting in a way. They would turn around doing that, like the kind of growling and snapping. He doesn't do that anymore, but he shakes in fear. And of course, we've never told him off or anything, but he shakes in fear. And all happens now, he gets out of the van, the vet arrives near the van, injects the Librela, and he jumps back in the van. That all is happening now, and he still shakes. He still has a muzzle on, although I'm sure he doesn't need it, but I want the vet to feel safe. So I put the muzzle on anyway, although most vets now ask me, why does he have a muzzle on? Well, because he used to growl and snatch. So he still has it on, and everyone is safe, everyone's happy. And in the future, if he's going to need some other visits, some other treatments, some other things, because he's getting old, he's nearly 14, then at least the muzzle is there in place to prevent anything else from happening. Now, and this is where I really want to talk to you about, you know, if you have a dog that struggles to go to the vets, but you need to take them in for their injections, or because your trainer or your behaviorist asks you to see the vet before start working with them, I do ask that sometimes, then we need a plan. And that plan is not just me and you, but me, you, and the vet. Your vet is there to help you and is there to help making sure that the dog is healthy. It's a welfare thing. So they can't refuse to help you because your dog is stressed and they can't be touched. So there are many ways that if your vet doesn't offer help, you can actually go and ask for help. So if you have a dog that doesn't want to go to the vet, you need to talk to your vet in advance, not when something happens. You need to talk to the vet tomorrow or today and say, hi, I'm the owner of a very fearful and nervous dog, which at the moment I'm not taking to see you because they don't like it. They don't like to come in. They don't like to wait in the waiting room. They don't like to see you. They can't be touched because they won't stand still. You need 10 people to hold them down and everything. How do we make sure that if I have an emergency tomorrow, I can actually come and see you knowing that you can visit my dog? Ask that question to the vets and see what the vet tells you. Now, if they tell you to go and see a behaviorist, say that it's a behaviorist that normally asks you to see a vet. I'm not a behaviorist, but the behaviorist will ask you to see a vet before they do anything. Because we need to know, they need to know, even me as a trainer, we need to know that dogs are not in a very chronic or acute pain before we can even attempt training or behavior modification. So most of the time, dogs that really struggle with behaviors and go and see a behaviorist, they are sent back to the vet before even starting any training plan. So if your dog is already struggling to go to the vets, you don't go and see a behaviorist. The vet is the one that has to help you. Now, I'm not going to give any names of any medication because it's not my job and I don't need it. But there are medications that will help your dog not being so stressed at the visit and forget about the visit. So there are medication that helps your dog not remembering how stressful it was to go to the vet. And it helps them keep a bit calmer while they're there so they can be visited. And although it's not probably the best thing to do to, sedate a dog to go and see the vet, if your dog needs to be visited, there's no option. It's one of those situations when there is no option. So it's best if your vet helps you with some medication that will support the dog nervous system to accept that visit and forget about it. Okay? Now, if your dog is one of those cases that even that medication doesn't work and it could happen, then of course they need sedating properly. They need sleeping while they get visited. And that's an extreme option, but it's an option that some of my students has to take anytime there is something that they know is not going to be tolerated by the dog. So you need to talk to the vet and say, look, we can try it, but it might be that my dog is not going to allow you to touch that broken leg unless he is completely anesthetized. And the muzzle needs to go on before you enter the vet. And they are going to have to do their things to make sure that the dog sleeps throughout the whole examination. But don't be scared to go to the vet and tell them that you need that support. If you don't tell them and you avoid them, and the day that something happens and you need to go, that's going to be horrible for you, the vet, and the dog. Now, another important thing about a dog that is nervous, but that's for, it's not just the dogs that have major behavioral issues. So I can wait at the vets with pretty much most of my dogs. I can go and sit down in the waiting room with Jock, not a problem, unless there is a male dog next to him. With Tay, not a problem, because when he's on a lead, he doesn't mind other dogs. Kite loves it at the moment, thankfully. Auri doesn't like it. She's one of the toddlers. She doesn't like to have people too close to her. Hester doesn't bother. And Tanith is reactive to dogs, like Moss, so they don't wait in the waiting room. Now, even though I can do it, the only one I'm actually taking in the waiting room at the moment is the puppy, because he gets socialization, he gets cuddles from the people at the vets, and won't stop to say hi to him. He gets to meet some dogs. Now, and this is where last week I had him with me while I was paying, and a nice old Labrador came in and came to say hi to him, and he was ecstatic. He was a very calm Labrador. I could see he was a calm dog. I could see the dog wasn't stressed. I could see that the dog wanted to say hi. And by the body language of the owner and the body language of the dog, I decided to allow them to say hi. And it was a nice interaction. He doesn't get to see many dogs. Thankfully, he doesn't care. He's not scared of dogs. And it was a very nice interaction that I ended very quickly because I had to pay. The time before that, I took him in for his second injection, and I started waiting in the waiting room, and then two little dogs came in one after the other, and they were very stressed. They were panting. One was screaming and barking at every movement and every dog. And what did I do? Did I wait in the waiting room? No. I said to the receptionist, sorry, I don't want my puppy in here with that going on. I'm going to be just outside when the vet is ready. I don't keep my puppy in a waiting room if the waiting room is full of stressed dogs, because that's going to pass on to my puppy. And my puppy is going to see those stressed dogs, and they might start reacting, or they might start being worried themselves that that place is dangerous. So I generally don't wait in the waiting room with my dogs, unless the situation is like the other day. I entered and there was nobody, and then a dog came in, and it was a perfectly fine dog. Now, if I was ready to pay and the dog coming in was kicking off while I had my puppies on a lead, I would have said to the receptionist, hang on a second, sorry, I'm just going to pop my dog into the van and I'll come back to pay. I don't wait around if the waiting room is full of stressed dogs, that being for my puppy or for my adult dogs. My adult dogs, even the one that I just listed to you, are good with other dogs, and I know they could cope with being in a room, sitting down with other dogs. I don't do it. Why? Why would I do it? I mean, my car is parked just outside, and I can sit down without the dog, waiting for the vet to come out, and then go and pick up my dog in the car and enter. It takes me 1 minute more than it would take if I was already there with my dog. Now, if you don't have a car because you walk to your vet, then you just pop your head in and say, hi, it's me. I'm waiting outside when the vet is ready for me. You don't have to go in the waiting room with your dogs. Please don't do it. Unless you have so much of a placid dog that you know is not going to be influenced by other dogs. I wouldn't do it. Now, if you live in a city, I remember thinking back at my times where I used to go to the vets in Milan. I used to either drive, sometimes I used to take the tube. I used to wait in the waiting room with my dogs, but Moss was dog reactive, so it was stressful. Now, if I could think about it now, would I have waited outside on the road? Possibly. I think with my brain now, with my head now, possibly I would have said to my vets, I'm just outside, or I'm walking around. If it takes you 10 minutes to see me, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I would ask, how long is it going to take? 10 minutes, I'll walk around the block for 10 minutes and then I'll be back in. I won't wait 10 minutes in a waiting room with a reactive dog and other dogs coming in and out. Same goes for cats. If your dog is reactive to cats, you don't really want them to kick off to a cat in a cage or a bird. When I was there last with the puppy, there was someone came with 2 parrots. Now, if I had a reactive dog to birds, I would not have wanted my dog in there. So you can do this, you're not forced in the waiting room with your reactive nervous anxious dog. So please talk to your vet, tell them, go in quickly and say, I'm the one next, but I'm out there with my dog. And then if you have a dog that does struggle to get into the vets because they have to go past other dogs, tell them, say to them, is there a way in by the side door? Because my dog going past all those dogs staring and barking is going to kick off. So that means that you won't be able to even look at him. He's going to be completely bouncing off the walls. And see what the vet offers. The vet has to offer help. And if it's better for your dog to actually be outside, providing that it's safe, because there's a car park and your dog is safely on a lead, then tell me, is it possible to have a chat outside? I'll show you how my dog walks. I'll show you how my dog does. Try to talk to your vets and find an alternative if your dog doesn't do good with going into the vets directly from the front door or even at all, like Moss. Try to be, try to talk to your vets. Try to be like, I know my dog. I know what I'm doing. Please, can you help? And if you ask for help, they will ask for help. They will help. They will help. Vets will help. Now, one more thing I wanted to add to this episode is cooperative care, because I do teach cooperative care to my students, and I do use it with specific dogs. Not every dog. I do teach part of it with my dogs. The reason I don't do all in cooperative care is that I don't have the time. And unfortunately, you don't have the time to do everything. And I have so much going on in my life. I have a lot of dogs. If I had one dog and I was living a normal life, I would probably put the time in. Maybe if I had 2 dogs, I would try my best. With the amount of dogs I have, 4 at the moment, all with different needs. 4 is my collies, plus, of course, there's my partners, but I train my collies. And the farm and the other animals that are at the farm that are going to only increase. I don't have the time. Does it sound bad? Possibly. I give them other things that people that have less dogs and less animals don't. I give them a farm. I give them livestock. I give them off-lead walks. They don't know what a lead is anymore. Space and countryside. So I don't do a lot of cooperative care, but if you have the time, it's great to put cooperative care in. And the limit of cooperative care to me, and if you have a different experience, please tell me, and I'll be happy to invite you on to talk about cooperative care specifically. And I know there's a lot of great people out there that do it, is that it's difficult to transfer to vet visits because vets sometimes don't have the time. And if your dog needs to be visited now, and your dog tells you, I don't want it now, then you have wasted a vet visit. So to me, cooperative care is great, and in a lot of dogs, it does help. So Jock, for example, knows a bit of cooperative care for a simple reason. That Jock, if you need to check on something, he will go belly up on his back, and he will not allow you to check his body. That's, of course, a mechanism, a coping mechanism. That's kind of that's a behavior he does to avoid people checking on him. I know it's that. So if I ask him to do a chin rest and stay in a chin rest, he loves that so much. We worked on that so much that he allows the vet to check his body, his ears, his head, and everything because he's on a chin rest rather than being dead on the floor with his belly up and his legs in the air. So Jock does a bit of cooperative care for that reason. If I have to put drops in his eyes or in his ears or anything, or even give him a tablet, I have to do it in cooperative care way because otherwise I have to wrestle him in a stand position. The only very good way of using that behavior is to do his nails because he just completely disappears. It just goes down, his legs are up, and you just do his nails very quickly because it doesn't move from that position. It looks like he's dying. Of course, it doesn't, that's his way of stressing about it, but, for some things is useful, but at the vets, the majority of the time, unless they have to check their belly or something that is underneath, or is their paws, then it's not really useful. Same for the physio. The physio has to visit him, so we have to do it from a stand position or a sit position sometimes. At least half of the visit. So I need to ask him another behavior. And if I ask him a chin rest, then he will do a chin rest on my hand and he will either sit or stand. Tay, for example, doesn't need it. You can do anything to Tay. Hester doesn't need it. You can do anything to Hester. Auri, it doesn't matter how much cooperative care you do. She doesn't want to be touched by people. So Auri, for example, at the moment, she's only been to the vet for vaccinations. Thankfully, she didn't need it. And unfortunately, there is no way we can make that easier for her. She's petrified by being touched by people. And that's the reason why Auri is not going to be bred, because she doesn't want people to touch her. And if we need the vet to intervene during pregnancy, it's a no-no. She will stress so much to pee herself. And there's no cooperative care you can do to change that. Is an intrinsic fear of a stranger reaching out to touch her. We bred her. We think we know where it's coming from, and unfortunately it's probably coming from the first vaccination she had at 8 weeks. But we can't be sure. She might have been the same even without that experience. So there's no cooperative care that will work. And the only, and we can do anything to her. She doesn't like it, but she stands still and let you do it. She doesn't like it, I mean, she doesn't wag her tail while you do it. She just stands there and let you do it. Especially from Beck. I can't as much, but Beck can, so it's fine, as long as one of us can. But no cooperative care is going to change that at the vets. So for now, we manage. in the future we might have to consider medication to take her to the vets, especially if there's something. So she's going to have to go in for spay. She might need extra help for that because she has to stay at the vets and then, have been handled. But we'll see. We haven't thought about that yet. There is an episode coming after this one, which is going to be about preparing your dog for rest with amazing Laura Carter. So I'm not going to talk more about that because there's a lot we talk about in there. And I thought it was a nice way to do this because this is an intro about the vets, and then Laura is going to talk about how to prepare your dog for rest, which is great. And so, yeah, cooperative care is great. If you need help with that because you can't brush your dog, you can't do your dog medication yourself, please do cooperative care. Reach out. I can help you. I've done it with my dogs. I've done it with my students, and a lot of my students done great progress with it. But to me, unless your vet, even if your vet knows what cooperative care is, it might not work every single time. It depends on the dog, I think. I think it's a great way to make it easy for your vet to do specific things to your dog. If your dog, like Jock, is okay with a person touching, it's just that he just doesn't present his body the right way. Or with Moss, for example, I did a bit of cooperative care with the chin rest, and it did help when he wasn't as worried. But now, the quicker we do it, the better for Moss, for example. I don't even try to do cooperative care with him and take longer to stay at the vets. I want it to be quick and short and back in the van. So, and again, sometimes that's better. Sometimes instead of taking the time for your dog to be ready to be touched, it's better if you have a plan where your dog is at the vet the minimum time needed and then is out again. I think I've talked about everything I wanted to say, and I want to really emphasize that you speak out for your dog. You ask what you need. You tell the vet, I need this, I need that, my dog needs this, my dog needs that. And a lot of people ask me, do you stay with your dogs where when they do procedures, like, I don't know, they have to be taken in for an operation, they have to stay. For example, with Moss, wait until he's sleeping and then they take him in. I don't leave Moss at the vets all day, and there is no way I'm going to change that. And if I need to change a vet and I need to go back to Cheshire to my old vets that will allow me that, that's what I'm going to do. It's not like there's no for me questioning. I'm not leaving Moss at the age he is with the fear he has the vets in the morning to spend the morning in a crate, to be anesthetized after lunch, be operated, and then sent back to me at the end of the day, because that is going to take him ages to recover, and at his age, he doesn't need it. So for example, if it was Jock or Tay, I would have no problem to let them in the morning and have them to stay at the vets for the day. I did it with Abigail as well, my old girl. She used to do that. If she had to go in, she'll go in for the day, but not Moss. So again, talk to your vet about this. If you think that your dog can cope with that situation, say to your vet, can I be there last in the morning? Stay there until my dog is sleeping. What my old vets used to do is, I used to go in late in the morning before they started their operation, and Moss was the first one to go in. So he was sleeping by the time they will literally lift him up to the vet, and the nurse lift him up completely limp, like sleeping. And they will then take him in, and he was the first one to go under surgery. And then as soon as he was awake, they would call me. I would go there, and they would wait for him to be just about awake to be going out with his legs. And then I would take him home. Now, this is because I could guarantee that I would take care of him, because they knew I could take care of him, and if anything was alright, I would take him back. That might not be possible all the time. At least they're coming home early, but they're going in last. Please, yes, you can do that. Talk to your vet about it. It's not impossible. It will probably disrupt the morning routine of the vets. But if you have a dog like Moss that really panics about it, and he's old and he's already stressed, he's already traumatized, then I probably wouldn't do it any other way. So that was the last thing I wanted to mention, and I hope this helped. And if you have any question or you need a bit of a backup plan, that's one of the things I provide for my students, is having a plan to go to the vets so we can do it together. Remember, I do one-to-one training, face-to-face and online. I do consultation. I do long-term training plans. So if you need anything regarding this, please reach out. I can help you, this or anything else. We can work together to make it easy for you, less stressful for you and for the dog. Because it stresses out both, not just the dogs. Yeah, I hate leaving my dogs at the vets. And I actually, if it's something that I know is going to stress the dog, I do hate it as well. I don't enjoy it. But like the way we do with Moss, I wasn't wanting to start Librella with Moss because I didn't want to get him to the vets every month. But we found a way to make it work. He only has to come out of the van and he goes back straight in. And that's fantastic for him. Okay, guys, I will leave you for now. And the next episode is going to be about how to rest your dog, or how to prepare to rest your dog, so that after a operation or an injury, you know what to do. And is going to be with a guest for the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this bit of a vet couple of episodes, because I think they're important. We can't do without our vets, so we have to work with them and in a way that works for us and the dogs. Have a nice week. Hopefully, wherever you are, spring and summer are finally here. I will be doing an episode on the farm next, so that I tell you a bit how our life on a farm is going. I wish I was really good at vlogging, but I'm not. So I've been trying to record things. But I'm not really good at vlogging. My brain just split into many parts and I completely lose track of what I'm doing. And then I have the dogs and the sheep and everything. So yeah, so I'm going to do it in a podcast. And if I can, I'll do that episode walking around the farm. If I can, I'll see how it goes. So I'll say bye for now and talk to you all very soon.